Yesterday, inside Kenya's parliament, Ndindi Nyoro came forward not to oppose privatization, but to challenge something far more dangerous, that is a bad deal.
The people who are running this transaction are not government officials.
You see, the government wants to sell part of its stake in Safaricom, which is Kenya's most profitable company, to Vodacom, a South African multinational.
Under the deal, Vodacom will acquire over 6 billion shares at 34 shillings per share, valuing the sale at a staggering 245 billion shillings.
On paper, it sounds ordinary, but in reality, Nyoro says that it could be one of the most expensive mistakes that Kenya has ever made.
Our country, Kenya, has the capacity to lose over 100 billion shillings.
What?
In this deal.
What?
Just by people not doing their job and for competence not being front of it.
This is the story of Safaricom, Vodacom, and a man so desperate for re-election that he's willing to cost this country 250 billion Kenya shillings.
But then we are here dealing with a buyer who has already proven to the Kenyan people that they cannot be trusted.
Experts are saying that this is not just a bad deal, that what we're witnessing is a corruption scandal. Because guess what? For helping Vodacom rob Kenyans, someone is eating, and they're eating big. Let me explain. If you love this kind of content, go ahead and like this video and subscribe. Now let's get to the video.
The controversy over the partial sale of Safaricom shares took a new twist after Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro told the Joint Committee on Finance and Privatization that the country stands to lose billions of shillings for not using competitive international bidding process in the divestiture.
So let us be precise. The government wants to sell 15% of Safaricom, not to open market, not through competitive bidding, but directly to Vodacom.
Why would we concentrate more of that resource into Vodafone hands instead of democratizing ownership of Safaricom through the Nairobi Stock Exchange to most people so that Kenyans can deal with that inequality?
At the proposed price, Ndindi Nyoro argues that Kenya stands to lose between 80 to 250 billion Kenya shillings.
Kenya is losing over 100 billion Kenya shillings on condition precedent alone.
That is not theoretical money. That means hospitals not built, schools not funded, and debt not reduced.
So we are here as Kenyans giving our asset for a song when the buyers on the other side, they are being treated like kings for getting a good deal and of course for taking advantage of our incompetence as a country.
Ndindi Nyoro did not come to play. He was not guessing. He was actually using the numbers. In 2021, Safaricom was valued at 1.8 trillion Kenya shillings. Today, the government wants to sell its shares at a valuation of below 1.4 trillion Kenya shillings. That is a 24% discount during a temporary market downturn. Nyoro's argument is simple. Market price is not value, especially not for a block sale of a national asset.
1.8 trillion in 2021. A point where so much money was also being reinvested in Ethiopia. This financial year, up to the first half of, I think September is the half year of Safaricom, they had a 52% increment in profit, bottom line. So we are selling Safaricom based on the previous profits. That's why this deal in Harakishwa, so that by the time Safaricom announces their full year profits, which will be over 52% increment, the deal will have already been done.
According to Nyoro, this deal is buyer-driven. That means the buyer is the one who is benefiting the most. In other terms, Vodacom benefits from 1, a depressed Nairobi Stock Exchange, 2, immobilized Safaricom shares that suppress price, and number 3, a government that is under pressure to fund short-term quote-unquote developments.
We should not be discussing anything below 45 per share. We should now be discussing about what we have done in Ethiopia, which was not present in 2021. Our discussion should be starting from there. But we've been cornered by these guys. We are now gasping for breath on the side of the loss.
In his words, Kenya is speaking the language of the buyer, not of the seller. Then come the detail most Kenyans missed. To make the deal work, the government plans to borrow against future Safaricom dividends.
Now, even after raising this money, they want to leverage it. They want to borrow multiples of this money. In fact, their plan is to borrow times 9.
Nyoro calls it what it is. A 40 billion Kenya shilling loan disguised as a transaction.
We are imagining as a country, there is no country in the next 5 years. So we need the money for the next 5 years today.
future money spent today. Why?
Once complete, the funds from this transaction will be seed capital. And I want to emphasize that. Once complete, the funds from this transaction will be the seed capital for the National Infrastructure Fund and the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
This is where William Ruto enters the story. Nyoro argues that the urgency behind this deal has nothing to do with long-term planning and everything to do with optics, projects, groundbreakings, campaign narratives.
Cabinet did approve, just before we went for Christmas, two very consequential policy instruments to set up the National Infrastructure Fund and to set up the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
The president needs visible developments between now and 2027.
And its application, as I have clearly stated, will be solely for the development of infrastructure.
Safaricom money makes that easy. Too easy.
And I can give you this also, Chairman, because we are here as Kenyans, we will see. This is the teaser. By next year, maybe by the time this committee finishes this, you will see the government saying, oh, we saw some people also saying they also want to buy. What I want to assure you is this. They will also want to sell the 20%.
So, for those who do not understand, it's not that Ndindi Nyoro is blocking the privatization. No, he's just demanding competition. Open the deal to one, international bidders, Kenya's investors, and transparent valuation processes.
Advertise 15% GOK stake in the international markets. I guarantee you 2.5 trillion Kenya shillings will be too little for the valuation.
He has given past examples where competitive bidding tripled asset value.
In 2013, Chair, I had some few shares of a company called Rehabitingo. One company called Centrum petitioned the Capital Markets Authority, and they decided to open the bid for other people to bid. What was the consequence? A share of 27.5 shillings, Chair. And I pocketed myself 85 shillings and other Kenyans.
So the question he's asking is, why rush unless someone is actually benefiting from the rush?
A sophisticated market like the US is seeing the value of in competitive bidding in a private company. But here in Kenya, we have been cornered by our buyers, and we are now talking the language of market price. It will be wrong, and history will not judge us very well if you continue with this transaction with this kind of consideration.
And since Ndindi Nyoro started asking these questions, Kenyans are now listening. Because under this administration, every deal carries a shadow. Every development has a beneficiary, and every rush raises suspicion.
It is inferior based on valuation. Inferiority of this deal is based on Kenya has been relegated in a corner to canvass for just an air of breath. I mean, you are the owner, and you are being squeezed by the seller. Sorry, you are the owner and you are being squeezed by the buyer.
You need to understand something. If this deal proceeds as planned, Kenya will lose long-term revenue. A foreign firm will gain strategic control. Future governments will inherit less flexibility, and voters are left with temporary projects that are paid for permanently.
6 billion shares we are selling with our population, it means the government is selling my 100 shares as did in Europe. If you divide the shares we are selling, Chair, and you give Kenyans their share, everyone in this hall, because we are all Kenyans, today will be allocated 100 shares. So we must look at it that way. So my 100 shares, what is the process that has been taken for the buyer to be identified?
You see, this is not just about Safaricom. It's about how countries lose wealth quietly, not because of theft, but because of poorly negotiated deals which are dressed up as progress.
To raise the requisite resources for us to drive our development in a very consequential manner.
Ndindi Nyoro asked the parliament one question: who is this deal really for? Because if Kenya is losing hundreds of billions, someone else is gaining, and history will remember the person who signed that deal. Subscribe.